I was listening to the story about, there was a story of a family in Washington, and the little boy called the Bigfoot the Cowboy Man. And he had, apparently it had made an effort to steal this kid. And it hit me. My children were in that playpen behind me with nothing but a mosquito net over them. It could have crept up behind me and taken both of my children, and I wouldn't have known.
Father just got like a Mustang or something from Wyoming, okay? He had it out in the corral because he couldn't put it in the barn in the stalls with the other horses. It would kick and made all the other horses nervous. Had a Seminole Indian working the horse, trying to break it every day. So they had it out in the corral. This skunk ape snuck up behind this horse and grabbed it on its hind quarters. This particular horse kicks out, jumps over the corral, runs into the pasture, to get away. At this point, the rancher's out there just blasted away with the dirty. Skunk ape runs into the swamp.
I went up there one day after that, or 2 days after that. I went up there and sat in the silence up there, and I'm telling you, man, it was free. It was crazy. There was a crazy vibe up there still. I did what I could to kind of get things under control, but I told her, I said, you need to get off this property. I feel like no matter how strong you are, it's almost like standing in the ocean. You can't stand still without moving your feet. You're going to get knocked over eventually, no matter how strong, whatever. You can't withstand a barrage of weird spiritual energy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Paranormal Odyssey Live. I am your host, Wayne, joined as always by my producer, co-host, moderator, friend, Miss Tiffany. How you doing, ma'am?
Hey, good. How are you?
Doing very, very well. What's going on behind you? How can you be in two places at once?
Because, I'm just magical. You got the whole package when you got me to work with you. No, this is my nod to you when you had your interview with Lori Wade with my selfish personal need over the show. Because you got ears listening everywhere, pal. This is my new car.
Very nice. Very nice. How you like it?
I love it. It's so cute. It's like teeny tiny. And I decided to name her, Carrie actually did. We named her Tink because she's so small.
That's cool. Yeah, I'd never even heard of them when you told me you were getting one and you sent me a picture, and it reminds me of a kind of like a Mini Cooper.
Yeah, and it's funny. When I was at the grocery store yesterday and I went through the parking lot, there was actually a Mini Cooper in the parking lot, and I'm like, wow, okay. It's a little bit bigger than that, though.
No, Brian's got a Mini Cooper.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like short cars. They make me feel better about driving. Not so much to swing around.
All right, let's do all this good stuff before we get to our guest, the Squatch Father himself. Guys, if you have not done so already, ask everyone, please take a second and hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate it. Absolutely. Tell a friend, tell a family member. Let's continue to grow. We are heading in the right direction. Let's keep going. If you've had an encounter, like to come on and share it with me, I would love to talk to you about that. Shoot me an email to wayne@paranormalworldproductions.com. Or if you do not want to talk to me, that's fine, and you would rather talk to Miss Tiffany, shoot her an email to the same place, Tiffany@paranormalworldproductions.com. She is official now, an official member of the studios.
I am so excited about that too. I was like a little kid today.
Hey guys, if y'all want to get on and share your encounter, come on in, or just tell us we suck or we're doing a good job or anything you want us to feature, anything like that. Don't be bashful. Send either of us an email, either Wayne or Tiffany at paranormalworldproductions.com. All right, guys, Paranormal Odyssey, paranormalworldproductions.com is our website. Ask everyone to head over there, check it out, show some support to the other shows, pick you up some merch. We would absolutely love that. Miss Tiffany picked her up a couple shirts here recently. Oh, there you go. There you go. That's a good looking shirt.
It is. It's so oversized and comfy.
Right in time
Great.
for fall.
Right in time for fall. I know. I'm gonna be wearing it all the time.
Yeah, I've got 4 or 5 shirts, Paranormal Odyssey shirts myself, and they're all short sleeve. I've been thinking about getting a long sleeve. Are they like comfortable? Because my short sleeves are awesome.
Yeah, I really enjoy. I mean, because they run small, at least on the women's side. So I got a man's extra large, and it fits me like a women's extra large or a women's extra extra large. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, the long sleeves are awesome. They're not tight or anything.
Good deal. Good deal. Yeah, y'all go out and get yourselves one. We would appreciate that. As mentioned earlier, we got the Squatch Father backstage. And for those of you who don't know who the Squatch Father is, that is Mr. Al Santariga. And I was telling Al, I think with this appearance, he's going to be my most visited guest. And I was telling Tiffany that it's probably close between he and Naoma on who's been on here the most. They've each been on here about 4 or 5 times. So, needless to say, Al is a favorite. He's a really good guy. He has come on and talked about everything. And he's experienced just about everything in the paranormal field. He's got just all kind of knowledge, information that he loves to share, and we appreciate it. Tonight's going to be Bigfoot based. He has been experiencing some, I don't know if he wants to call it woo or supernatural or what, but some of the more odd Bigfoot stuff he's been experiencing around his property, and he wanted to come on and share, and we're glad to have him. If you guys have any questions at all that you want to ask Al, please feel free to do that. He is expecting them. Please put those in all caps. Just makes it easier for us to see him and get to him and get you up there. So yeah, all of that out of the way. Tiffany, you got anything else before we get to him?
No, I've been waiting for this interview because when I used to be just a mod in the chat box, I would like fire off all these questions and how cool it would be to talk to him, like this. And now I'm talking to him like this. So it's really cool.
Awesome. Hey, before we get started, and since you brought up, being a mod, I added Naoma and I added
Mm-hmm.
Dude from Texas. And
Mm-hmm.
Naoma asked me like if she needed to do anything because I mean, does she have to do it? Does she have to accept anything? I don't know how that works. She doesn't even know if she is. She's on there
Well,
right now in the chat.
I see her on there. She doesn't have a blue wrench. Well, she won't with ours. Let me go to because I know in the actual chat, yeah, in the actual chat, she's showing as a mod. She
Okay.
has, she has the coveted blue wrench on the actual chat. So
Yeah, because I'm looking at it now and I don't see it.
yeah, on the actual chat, she has that blue wrench. So she's going to be able to mute people, put people in timeout, completely
Okay.
remove them. She has
She
all
just
those
said,
powers.
yeah, she just said she checked it out. She has the power to control things. Okay.
Yeah.
Good deal.
So
I wanted to make
hey,
sure that she was good. All right. All of that out of the way. Let's get Mr. Al out here. You ready? Here we go.
I'm muted.
Al, what's up, buddy?
Hi. Hey, Wayne, how you doing? Hi, Tiffany. Thank you for having me on. I'm not in any competition with anybody, so I could care less how many times I've been on. I don't know why you invited me on today. I got nothing to say, so I guess, the interview's over.
Yeah, you never have anything to say. Never have anything to say, do you, Al?
No, absolutely not. No.
How you been, bud?
Good. Doing good. Thank you. How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing good. What's going on in New York? And tell everybody what part of the state you're in.
I'm in Dutchess County, New York. It's the Mid Hudson Valley. It's called. It's the southern part of the Catskill Mountain Range, the southern tier of the Catskill Mountain Range. So we're pretty mountainous up here with a lot of. Well, I sent you that picture of my property, remember? And you were like, "Oh man, I didn't realize you were in the woods," So yeah.
Yeah, you're out there. You're surrounded.
Yes.
Now, you reached out and told me that you had been having some interesting stuff going on. You want to just jump right in and tell everybody what's been going on?
Yeah, I've been lately I've had a couple of telepathic communications. Something I've really been looking forward to having, and I've tried a couple of times out at the sacred site where I go to have a telepathic communications, but I was getting nothing. But after I had my ascension, I was told I was wide open, and I was talking to Robin McCrae, and Robin said to me, she's like, "Okay, now you're wide open. They were coming through in waves, like when you felt like you were being pulled out there, or you didn't know why you were going to the sacred site. They were pulling you out there." She goes, "But now that you've had your ascension, you're wide open, and you'll have these experiences, and this is really going on. This is not dreams." So I said, "Okay, let's see what happens." Not I'm not a meditation kind of guy. I've done martial arts my whole life. I can't meditate to save my life. I just can't. Um, but I do have a meditation circle that was given to me by a higher power, but that's another story. Um, but so I had a dream one night. At least I thought it was a dream. I was in a log cabin in the middle of the woods. Cabin I've never seen before. A cabin that was really, really old. I would say maybe 100, 200 years old. And the woods that I wasn't familiar with. And I was sleeping on a bed, and the bed was up against the window, and the window didn't have any curtains or shades on it. And I was out of my body. I was standing by my feet, looking at myself sleeping, when a head came up in front of the window. And this Sasquatch said telepathic to me sleeping. She said to me sleeping that her name was Hyaneth, capital HYA dash capital NETH, Hyaneth. And that she was in communication with Chris Reinhardt from Discover Sasquatch. Now, Chris has had multiple telepathic communication with the Sasquatches up in the Berkshire mountain range, which is, not far from our mountain range. And apparently these Sasquatches told Hyaneth that Chris and I were coming to the sacred site to do an expedition, and they were looking forward to meeting Chris. And I'm sitting there and I'm hearing this conversation. Even though I was out of my body, I felt like there was still some kind of tether that I was still attached to it. So I was hearing this communication with me sleeping loud and clear, like she was talking to me while I was awake. So I wasn't sure what to make of it. I wasn't sure if it was a dream or not. So I called Robin McCrae, and I said, I had this weird dream. At least I think it was a dream. And I told her what happened. And she said, let me look into it for you, Al. And she looked into it, and she called me back, and she said, yes, you had a telepathic communication. Yes, Hyaneth is a female. She's the alpha female for the clan that I deal with. And she's been in telepathic communication with Chris Reinhardt's Sasquatches up in the Berkshire mountain range. So I was like, wow, this is crazy. Now Chris had 2 telepathic communications. One of them was a young male that said his name was, oh man, what was his name? If it comes to me, I'll look up. But he had two communications. I don't remember what they were, what their names were right offhand. But if it comes back to me, I'll tell you. But he's telling me about his telepathic communications going on in Connecticut. And now all of a sudden I'm having telepathic communications here in New York, which I never had before. And then my psychic calls me from Arkansas. And I don't usually tell her what I'm doing. She usually has visitors come to her, and then she'll call me. She said, Al, what are you up to? Well, she called me up and she's like, what are you doing? Where are you going? And what's going on? And I said, I said, why? What did you experience? And she said, I had a white Sasquatch come to my house and contact me telepathically, tell me that he wasn't going to allow her to remote view our expedition. He was going to block her because everything we were going to experience was for me and Chris, and she wasn't supposed to know anything. And now my psychic I've been using for over a dozen years, and we've used her for all kinds of investigations, and she's never been blocked by anybody. But this Sasquatch told her that he was ancient, and that he was a healer, and that he was a shaman, and that this message is just for me and Chris. And he told her that he was going to come visit me at some point. So she's telling me this, and I'm like, okay, I don't know if she's going to come here or not. I really don't know. I seen a white Sasquatch about 2 or 3 years ago on a way to work one morning, 4:30 in the morning. I see 2 red balls of light about 7-8 feet up in the tree. And I was far away, and I didn't know what the hell I was looking at. And as I got closer and closer, I realized that these 2 balls of light was a white Sasquatch standing by the side of the road. And he had 1 foot up on the road like he was getting ready to run across, and 1 hand up against the tree like he was getting ready to push off. But as I drove up to him, I slowed down because I was afraid he was going to run out in front of the car. Because you hear about this all the time. They run out in front of the car at the last second. So I was slowed down to basically a crawl because I was the only guy on the parkway anyway that morning. And as I rolled by him, he looked at me and I looked at him. But there was no telepathic communication. I didn't know what was going on. And as I went by, I looked in the rearview mirror and I tapped my brakes to light up the back, and I seen him run across the road. So I asked my psychic, the Sasquatch that came to you, the white one, because I've never in a million years did I ever expect to see a white Sasquatch, and with these giant red fireball eyes, just unbelievable. And so my psychic said, yes, he wanted to communicate with you back then, but you weren't ready yet. This was before my ascension. So I was like, okay. So then Chris calls me up from Connecticut and he says, I was in deep meditation the other night. And as I was in deep meditation, I seen a white Sasquatch looking at me from the tree line or the bushes or something like that. But when he seen it, it shocked him. And it shocked him so much that it knocked him out of his meditation. So I was like, well, what was it about the Sasquatch that shocked you out of your meditation? And he said, I think it was just because it was white. I didn't expect to see a white Sasquatch. But I had a feeling Chris wasn't telling me everything, So I was like, okay. So then a couple of weeks go by, and I'm sleeping in my own bed. I'm sleeping, and I think I have this dream, right? I think it's a dream. This white Sasquatch comes to me, but I'm not in my bed. At this point, me, Chris, and Brian were at the sacred site, sitting down on our chairs. And the way the sacred site is set up, it's a giant circle with megalithic stones all around, with hundreds and hundreds of stones on top of the megalithic stones. with all the arches and X's and breaks and bends. And to the west is a high ridge where they live on the other side of that high ridge. That's their home range. And they usually come down off the ridge. So we're sitting in the circle of all these stones. And in all the years I've been there, I've never seen fog or anything like that. But in this vision, the fog is rolling in over the ridge, and the fog is like 3 feet high. And in the fog, out of the fog, I should say, this giant white Sasquatch appears. But now I feel like I have a disconnect from my body. Even though I'm still sitting in my chair with Brian and Chris, I'm out of my body and I'm standing behind the big white Sasquatch. And the white Sasquatch says, "My name is Alaric." And he spells it for me. And it's capital A-L-I dash capital R-E-K. And he says, "I'm ancient. I'm a healer. I'm a shaman. I'm the," what was the term he said? "I am like the eldest statesman of this particular clan." He says, "And when you come to the sacred site for your expedition, I'm coming down to introduce you to introduce myself to you guys, and we're all just sitting there in my vision. We're all just sitting there with our mouths wide open, looking at this thing, because it's, 12 feet tall, 1,500 pounds, he's a beast. He's a beast. And he's having this conversation. So I say, okay, because we planned on going, our trip was coming up. So then I called my psychic and I said to her, "What was the one thing that stood out to you when he was in your presence?" And she said, "First of all, he demands respect. More than anything, you must respect this Sasquatch." And then she said, "Oh, by the way, he's got fireball red eyes." Like that was like a throw in, right? So I was like, okay. So then I called Chris Reinhardt and I said, "Hey, Chris," and I told him what happened. And he said, "Was there anything strange about the white one that you see now?" And I said, "Yeah, the only strange thing about him was that he had fireball red eyes. But they didn't come across to me as being like scary because I had already seen this guy 3 years earlier, And when I told Chris that he had fireball red eyes, Chris literally dropped the phone out of his hand. And that out of my meditation. When I seen him looking at me through the bushes, his eyes were fire red, he said. And it shook me, And I was like, okay, that's pretty crazy that Chris is in Connecticut. I'm in New York. My psychic is in Arkansas. And we're all three of us are experiencing the same communication with the same Sasquatch, And in my presence, in my vision, when I was in his presence, I felt like I was in the presence of royalty. I felt like I wasn't worthy to meet this guy. Like I should have got down on my hands and knees, like, you do it to the old queens and kings in back in the olden days, the 12th century. I felt like I was in the presence of greatness, and it was just mind-boggling,
Yeah.
that three people stay away from one another are all having the same communication with this white. So again, I called Robin McCrae. I said, "Hey, Robin, had this telepathic communication. Did it really happen? Was it just a crazy dream?" So Robin says, "Let me tap into it and see if I can get anything for you." She calls me back 5 minutes later and she says, "Al, he's got me blocked. He won't let me see anything. Just whatever he's got plans for you and Chris, it's just for you and Chris. She said so. And it was funny because my psychic said the same thing. He's got her blocked, you know? He's not going to allow her to see anything because she usually remote views the location and lets me know what we're going to come across while we're there. But she couldn't see anything. Not one thing, not even the location that she's remote viewed a million times. It was just like a black void. And I mean, and that, you know, and then Chris and I and Brian, we decide to go. We pick a Saturday to go. I like to go in day, night. So I like to get in there during the day. I have like 300 different experiments I do every time I go out. And I either try to replicate them or I try not to replicate them. It just depends on which way I'm leaning that night, you know? And we get to the location, beautiful sunny day. It's a gorgeous day. We hike in. Chris is blown away by the location. He's like, oh my God, this location is squatchy, you know? And then when we get up to the sacred site, he's just dumbfounded. He's like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this. To find this, like, again, like the way it's a high plateau in the middle of the woods with these giant megalithic stones with hundreds of stones set up on top of them. Now, when I first discovered the site, I called Dr. Rita Louise. She's an archaeologist out, I think, in California. And I FaceTimed her. And I said, hey, Doc, look what we found. And, you know, what do you think this is, you know? And she thought we were in Ireland or England, you know? And we said, no, I'm in New York. And she's like, wow, you found the megalithic site. But the crazy thing about the site is once you get up there, all you see is X's and arches and breaks and bends and twists and trees pinned under other trees, you know? And it's just, and the energy is amazing. It's like the most calmest energy in the world. And I'm not somebody who will go camping and sleep out under the stars in the sleeping bag. I like to be in a tent because I got an issue with snakes. They freak me out, you know? And so I like to be in a tent. But this location, I can sleep underneath that arch and not worry about anything bothering me. That's the way the energy is up there, you know? And when Chris got up there, we got up there and Chris was feeling the energy. He was like, wow, this energy is crazy up here. It's just so calming and so relaxing. And he kept being drawn to the ridge line. He was being pulled to the ridge line over. And I started setting up different equipment for when it got darker, and, you know, had all kinds of little gadgets and stuff I was putting out. He just kept getting pulled to the ridge line. And Chris had a vision of a stone wall running through the woods. Now, on the north end of the sacred site, there is a stone wall that runs right through the woods and up the ridge line and down the other side, you know? So we're looking at the ridge, and Chris is like, this is where they come in at. This is where they come in at. And I'm like, you're not telling me anything I don't know. I've been here a million times. I know they come down off the ridge, you know? And I don't go up on that ridge, and I will never go over that ridge into the other side, you know? And so we're sitting there, and Chris is being pulled towards the stone wall. And I'm just looking, my attention is being drawn to my south, the south end of the ridge. And hand to God, I couldn't believe what I seen. There was this Sasquatch. I don't know if you ever seen, it's hard to explain. I don't know if you ever seen a lemur hop, like go parallel, jumping parallel to its left or to its right. The way their hands are up and their tail is up and they're hopping from one, you know what I mean? Well, that's what this Sasquatch did. Okay. It went from, there was a tree to my far left, and it did 2 giant leaps, and it ended up in front of me, a tree in front of me. But the crazy thing about this particular Sasquatch was I never seen a Sasquatch like this before at this location. At this location, they look like the Patty Bigfoots. You know, they're big, they're brawny, they got the conical head. They're Patty. They either look like Patty, or they look like the Cowardly Lion from the Wizard of Oz. You know, with a big head and a big, you know, hair thing. Well, this thing, and again, it sounds stupid the way I'm going to explain it, but this thing looked like Cousin It from the Addams Family. It had long, straight brown hair, and when it jumped, the hair went up and down and up and down. And I was so focused in on the head because I wanted to see what the face looked like, but the hair never went over its face. It stayed there. So I didn't get a chance to see what its face looked like, you know, but it was built almost like, I don't know if it was a juvenile, because he was skinny and he was only like 6 feet tall. He wasn't 7, 8, 9 feet tall. He was skinny looking, but it had so much hair on it, so much long, straight hair. I had never seen one like that. And I'm calling Chris back and I'm saying, Chris, you got to come back here. You're not going to believe what I just seen, you know, never expecting to see anything like that. And I never seen one move like a ringtail lemur jumping, you know. It was just the weirdest thing ever. And so we hunkered down, and that day was pretty warm out. It was like 85 degrees during the day, but it did say it was going to get colder at night. And as the night started to fall, unfortunately, Chris didn't bring enough cold weather gear with him, and he started to get cold, and the energy shifted at some point. It went from this calm, relaxing energy to almost like, I don't want to say that the energy was threatening, because I'm not sure what we were feeling was either something threatening us to get us out of there that night, because that night there was a full moon, you know, and that's why I wanted to be there, because I wanted all that energy of the full moon. I had so much stuff going on in my head that I wanted to do, you know, and I wanted to turn Chris on to everything that I do, because look, I'm 61 years old. I don't know how much longer I'm going to do this. And I wanted to give, if I got to give all my information over to somebody, Chris Reinhardt is a pretty good guy to do it. He's very legitimate. He's boots on the ground. You know, what he says, whatever he says he did. He's no BS. He's a good friend of mine. And I figured if I was going to give my stuff to anybody, it would be Chris. And so I wanted to teach Chris all kinds of stuff. I took out, so all of a sudden we got this different energy. Let's call it different, because I don't want to call it threatening. Because sometimes what we mistake as being threatened, like an investigation, sometimes we'll feel like we're being pushed out, you know, because we think we're being threatened. It's dark or it's negative. It's something trying to get you out of harm's way. You know what I mean? Sometimes what we mistake as being threatening is really not threatening. It's just some kind of energy looking out for you, making you, getting you out of harm's way. If you have to leave that location at that point in time so nothing bad happens to you, so, you know, then you have to leave. A lot of people just jump right away to negative. It was a demon, it was this, it was that, you know, it was witch, dark energy. Not necessarily, not all the time. It doesn't always play out that way, you know? And so we were there, and Chris heard something in his ear. Something whispered something in his ear. I didn't hear it. He heard it. I gave him my parabolic mic to use, and he heard a loud scream come from across the lake, and it was one of those siren screams. And it just went on and on and on, and I could hear it. I could barely hear it audibly, but through the parabolic mic, he heard it loud and clear. But I had just handed the mic to him, and I didn't explain to him that there's a record button on it, and if you hear anything, hit the record button, So he didn't know there was a record button, so we didn't get it. But as soon as we got there, we had rocks thrown at us. We heard tree knocks. We heard like whoops and whistles and stuff like that. I mean, and we got there during the day. So, as soon as we got there, there was a lot of activity. And then it was weird. The sky got really dark. It got like purple. It looked like almost like a tornado was going to touch down. And the wind was blowing counterclockwise. And the energy was changing. It was really, and the temperature was dropping. And Chris's teeth were chattering. And I was like, I got hand warmers. What do you need to keep warm? You know what I mean? Because we just hiked 4 miles with the heaviest backpacks that we should have never carried, because we carried way too much gear into the woods with us. These things weighed a ton. And I really didn't want to leave at that point, because I didn't want to carry all of that stuff in for no reason, And we had just gotten there. Oh, at least we were there for 4 hours. It seemed like we just got there, but it was just starting to get dark. And then the wind started blowing counterclockwise, and the trees started whipping. And it did look like the sky was mad. It was mad at us. Like it didn't want us there. And then Chris seen what looked like a black puff of smoke. At first, it looked like a bird. Like he thought it was like a blackbird flying around in the trees. And then it went up into the opening of the canopy opened up, and it turned into a black puff of smoke. And he was like, dude, I don't know what that was, And I didn't see it, because I had the compass out. I have a military grade compass out. I had the compass out, and the compass was spinning like a top. It was just going around in circles. It was just spinning.
Hey, Al, let me get this question.
Go ahead.
Real quick, from a dude from Texas. Are
Hey,
some
Dave.
of the Sasquatch sightings possibly ghosts, in your opinion?
No, because I get different kind of vibes from different kind of energies, and the energies, every time I see the Sasquatch, I got a certain kind of I'm tapped into it a certain way, and I get everything. How do I explain this? All different energies affect me differently.
It makes sense, because you're very much involved in paranormal investigations and stuff too, so it would make sense that would affect you differently.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this a long time now. Not that I claim to be psychic by any stretch of the imagination, but every psychic I know says that I have all the clairs, and like I could smell stuff, I could taste stuff, I hear voices in my head. I'll touch a wall and get an image in my mind's eye, but I can't do that at will. It's just got to be like the little voice in my head said, touch the wall, then I touch the wall and I get an image, So I don't claim to be psychic, but I do have all these psychic connections where I get all these smells and taste and all of this stuff. And hearing, I hear voices. Again, I see the images in my mind's eye. So at that point.
Okay, well, Al, we got another one that just came in from.
Go for it. The more the merrier.
Dr. John Baranchuk asks, you started saying you couldn't meditate, but later said you were meditating. Maybe when you were interrupted, did your ability to meditate improve through these experiences?
Yes, I did say I couldn't meditate, and no, I don't meditate. I have a meditation circle after my ascension, I I was gifted a meditation circle, and I was told by the powers above that anytime I had a question that I couldn't answer, I was to sit in the on these. I have what happened was after my ascension, I found quartz crystal stones the size of bowling balls set up in my backyard around a tree. Okay, that weren't there in the fall, before the winter rolled in. These stones weren't there. Okay, and I was told, because I thought it was a dream, obviously, and I was told, no, it's not a dream. This is really happening, and there'll be proof when the snow melts. At one point, we had 16 inches of snow in the backyard, and when the snow melted, that's when I found that circle around the tree. And the minute I seen it, the voice in my head said, "Touch the stones," and I felt the stones vibrating. And then the voice said, "Touch the tree." And I felt the energy go from the stones go through my arm and into the tree. And I felt it. And the secret, I was told the secrets of the universe were frequency, vibration, and consciousness. That's what I was told that night. I went to intention, well, especially in our realm, intention is big. But when I do have a question for the universe, I was told by a metaphysical person, because I'm not a metaphysical person, and to go sit barefoot on those stones so my feet are grounded on the earth, Mother Earth. My body on the stones and my back against the tree, and then I can ask what I usually do to put me in a meditative state. And this is just something that I've figured out recently. Native American flute music gets me there. Okay, that's the only thing that can get me into a meditative state. And I don't do a lot of meditation. My life is too hectic. I don't have the time. But I was told, if there's ever a point where I need to ask the universe a question, to go and do that and meditate, and I will get any of the answers that I'm looking for via the universe, like Tesla and Einstein and Bach and Beethoven and all of those people. So that's the only way I can meditate, is through the meditation circle and with Native American music. And I've only done it once so far, just to see if I could do it. And I was able to meditate. I don't know where I was. It was in like an astral plane kind of thing, but I didn't ask any questions, because I wanted to see if it actually worked. I was testing it out for myself, and it did work. And that's the only time I can meditate. So, but before that, no, couldn't do it no matter how hard I tried. But so it's getting darker. Chris is freezing. I'm trying to I want to give him, I got a heated vest. That's use my heated vest, because I want to keep him there, but his teeth are chattering and he's cold to the core. I mean, he's freezing. And so I pulled out my dowsing rods. I love to go old school, new school, high tech, ITC stuff, old school from the old days, low tech stuff. And the dowsing rods were just spinning like helicopter blades. Now, Chris had never used dowsing rods before. And the first time you use dowsing rods and they work is a very life-changing moment, because you feel the energy go through the rods and through your hands and through your body. And Chris was like, wow, what is this? What am I dealing with? Because he couldn't believe the energy he was feeling from those rods. But the crazy thing is, the rods were always pointing towards him. I would take the dowsing rods, walk to the east, and I would put them out, and they would turn to Chris. And I would do the same thing to the west, north, and they always turned towards Chris. And he's like, what does this mean? Why are they always pointing at me? And I said, because tonight it's all about you, buddy. You know what I mean? The energy here tonight is for you, And I was getting very excited, because I thought we were going to meet Alaric, And then at one point, Chris said, Al, I can't stay here no more. I'm frozen solid. I'm afraid that if I stay here, I'm going to get pneumonia. Could we please leave? And at that point, the wind was whipping really hard. It felt like the temperature where we were had dropped like 40 degrees. So I said, okay, we got an hour of daylight left. Let's hike out of here. You know, we got 4 mile hike back to the car. Let's hike out of here while it's still daytime, because it's a pretty sketchy hike. It's off the Appalachian Trail, and what was a mining road at one time turns into a goat trail, and it's very, very dangerous. As a matter of fact, Chris stepped into a gopher hole and he went down to his knee. You know what I mean? And he was lucky enough that he just went straight down and he didn't twist his knee or break his ankle, because he's like 6'5". I would have never been able to carry him out of there, you know. So we hiked out, we got back. Then a few nights later, after the expedition, I had another encounter with Alaric. Came to see me again. Again, it was just me this time at the sacred site, and Alaric was up on top of the ridgeline, and he was waving me up. He was telling me to come up the ridge. Now, I've never gone there by myself, not because I'm scared or anything, but that the hike is such a sketchy hike that if you go down, you're so far off trail, no one will ever find you. So I always go in with at least one other person. But in this vision, I was there by myself, and he was going like this to me, like, come up. And I walked over to the bottom of the ridge line, and he said, come up. You know, he's telling me telepathically, come up. I'm going to introduce you to the clan. I'm going to bring you down the other side and introduce you to the clan. This is what he's
so when he's speaking to you in your mind, the mind speak, I'm assuming it's English, because I mean, I don't know if you speak any other languages, but I'm assuming it's English. Is there like an accent, or can you tell that it's another voice other than your own, or is it your voice?
No, he was talking Italian. No. He was he was speaking English. He was speaking English. Now, it wasn't my voice, no, because it's a deep, booming kind of voice, you know. And he's telling me to come up. So I walked right up to the edge of the ridge where I had seen the cousin Nick go by, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, come up. I want to bring you down and introduce you to the clan. And I said, no, I can't come up. I made a deal with the clan that I would never go up on this ridge, and I would never go over into their home range. I can't come up. And he's like, no, you can come up. You're with me. You can come up. And I was like, no, because I made a deal years ago that if they would come and visit me while I was at the sacred site, I would never go up on that ridge or go over. And so he was getting frustrated with me. And I was like, you know, as much as I felt like I was in the presence of greatness, I didn't feel like I could break my deal with the clan. And I called Robin, and I told Robin this. And Robin said, Al, you passed the test. I go, what do you mean? She goes, they test you all the time. And that he was testing you to see if you were going to break that deal. And you didn't. You passed. And I got goosebumps just telling you this now, because I didn't know I was being tested. You know what I mean? But I'm the type of guy, if I give you my word, I stick to my word, you know. And I had made a deal with this clan a dozen years ago. And every time I go to the sacred site, they come down. Sometimes it's just one scout. Sometimes it's all the big guys. Sometimes it's everybody. Sometimes it's just the juveniles. But I've never been there and not have activity. So I didn't want to break that covenant I had with them, you know. And Robin said, good thing you didn't do that, Al, because he was testing you.
Let me get this question out of the way.
Go ahead.
Carson says, Al, did you make your own dowsing rods? If so, what material did you use?
No, I bought my dowsing rods, and they're just two copper rods. That's all they are, and they're not anything special. They don't have any special handles on them or anything like that. It's just two plain copper dowsing rods that I bought online. And they work great. They're tremendous, absolutely tremendous. See, Chris is just starting to get into I hate the word woo. I refuse to use it, but the paranormal side of the Sasquatch people, and so I think, being with me is a good thing because I've dealt with so much paranormal activity, even with the Sasquatch people and without the. So I think he was a little overwhelmed at first from the energy shift, because it was definitely an energy shift, and then the voice he heard the smoky thing that flew up into and then the dowsing rods constantly pointing at him. I've used the dowsing rods for years, and I've never seen him do that. Just constantly point to one person. So I think he was a little taken back by all the paranormal activity we were having at the time at the location. But that's par for the course when they're around. The paranormal activity gets amped up, So
Yeah.
he knows that. He's just not familiar enough with it to be used to it like I am.
Yeah. My producer extraordinaire, Miss Tiffany, there has been busy, and she looked up the names of the Sasquatch that you'd like to look for meanings. And what'd you find, Tiffany?
Well, it didn't give it like as a whole. It broke the names down in half. So Haya means she, and I think you
Okay.
said she.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Neth, Neth, means habitual.
Oh,
So
okay.
it could be, and then Alarek, altogether means to come together.
Oh, wow. Interesting. I tried to look them up. I couldn't find them. I looked them up on, I don't know where you found them, but I looked them up on ancient names. I went to like the England, Scotland, Ireland. I went into the Egyptian. I even went into the Arab side of history. You know what I mean? Because Alaric kind of sound Arabic to me, And I looked under all. What's
It
that?
actually came up as Dutch.
Really?
It did. It
No
actually,
kidding.
when I typed in Alarek meaning, spelling it out the
Okay.
same way you spelled it, it came up. Very first thing was Dutch to English, and that's when it came down that it means to come together.
Wow, that's crazy. I would have never thought. I mean, like I said, I'm not a computer guy, so I don't know where I'm looking. I'm just Googling stuff, you know what I mean? And I couldn't find anything that was satisfactory for me because, like I said, when I heard the name Alarek, I thought it was Arabic. When I heard Hyaneth, I thought maybe it was Native American. I looked up Native American tribes up here in the Northeast. I looked up both of those names. It doesn't exist for any of the tribes up here. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's amazing that you found them so quickly because I'm horrible at this stuff. Yeah.
Al, how long has this? Are you one of these that get offended with the term "woo," or are you okay with "woo"?
Yeah, I'm not happy with woo or mind speak, and I'll tell you why. Because back in the day when everybody was flesh and blood, okay, and you mentioned the word paranormal activity, they came up with, and again, I don't use the word mind speak, I use telepathic communication because that's what it is. It's an ESP kind of communication. They came up with these terms to be disrespectful to the people who didn't believe they were just flesh and blood. So they're disrespectful terms that were created by the flesh and blood people against anybody who didn't believe it was flesh and blood. And I know everybody uses them, and I don't care if you use it or not. It's just something that, burns my ass.
I mean, to be honest, I didn't know. I didn't know that it was
Yeah,
created.
no, that's how it was created. It was created by the flesh and blood believers, that anybody who believed in it, that the Sasquatch people were more than just missing links running around the woods, or idiots. They were basically making an ass out of people who didn't believe what they believed. And now it's shifted. The energy has shifted, and 99% of the people who are into the Sasquatch people think that they are. There's more than just flesh and blood there, and the flesh and blooders are they're far and few between now.
I started out. I've said it many times. I started out. You couldn't convince me they were anything other than a biological creature, and now
they're biological too. You know what I mean?
Nothing more than flesh and blood.
We all start out flesh and blood, and I'll be the first to say that. I thought it was a missing link. I can't tell you how many times my opinions change, over the years. There's missing link. It's this, it's that. It's an ape. It's a missing link. It's an alien. It's just, so many different opinions over the years. And the more you research it, the more experience you have one-on-one with these Sasquatch people, the more they give you. And the more they give you, the stranger it gets. It really does.
I think too, having people come on and talk about it is actually beneficial, because they're going to experience different things than other people. So it will open people's eyes more so than, on just the flesh and blood. Like, I was curious about the cousin it creature. I wrote it down here so I wouldn't forget. Do you think maybe that was a different cryptid, maybe not a Sasquatch, because of the description, the way it acted, the hair?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because when my psychic read the energy of the sacred site, she said the how'd she call them? The Star Brothers, the Star People, were using that site for mining. Because this particular site, the government used to mine uranium there as well. You know what I mean? So she said that the Star People were mining it. I don't know if it was for uranium or what they were taking out of the earth there. But she said after they left, white men came and built these monuments, these structures. She said there were white men in robes thousands of years ago. This is like a sacred site. And then she said the Native Americans used it as a sacred site, maybe even a burial ground. And she said after the Native Americans were ran off, the Sasquatches took it over as a sacred site, And so it seems like from generation to generation, someone has always used it for something special.
You just saw Tiffany's response, and it was because this is another example of someone using the term Star People.
Yeah,
because we've been running across that so much lately. I interviewed Tiffany and her husband Zach, and what was it? Your granddaughter talked about the Starman.
No, my grandson, my 2-year-old grandson. Oh, it's okay. He's 2. He's not going to worry about it. They'll come upstairs at our house, and so time before last time, he came downstairs and he pointed upstairs, and we have had an encounter with Bigfoot, and there's tons of, crazy paranormal stuff going on. But he pointed up the stairs and said, Starman. And I'm like, honey, Starman doesn't live here. And the next time they came over, I was in the kitchen fixing dinner, and he came up to me and he said, Nana, where's the Starman? Nana, where's the Starman?
Well, maybe the Starman comes visit him when he's there.
Well, they always wave up here at our house upstairs.
Okay.
Nothing ever downstairs with them.
Okay.
They're always upstairs. And then he kept saying Starman, and we went and sat with them one day so my older daughter could take her 1.5-year-old to the doctor. And he approached my husband and said, Papi, Starman.
That's beautiful, man.
And then you said Star People, and I was just like, oh, no, because now hear about that. Ever since I've talked about it, we hear that more and more now.
I've gotten emails of people talking about the star people, star man.
Yeah, the Native Americans up here have talked about it for thousands of years. There's a couple of different powwows that I go to that I associate with different tribes. And I'm lucky enough to have an Iroquois museum not far from me. So I can go to that museum and just hang around and talk to people. And, I've been there so many times now. It's like they know who I am. And they're like, oh, Al's here. He must have more questions, But I mean, I always pick everybody's brains whenever I can, and
Well, I
I
think
always talk about the star people.
that's how you learn. And we do have, I do have Cherokee in my bloodstream.
Okay.
So I was thinking maybe that kind of fits somewhere, maybe.
No, my psychic is Cherokee. She's 5th generation Cherokee and 5th generation psychic. And she's amazing. Just absolutely. When she called me up and she's like, who's Chris Reinhardt? And I have to talk to him. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because I never mentioned Chris to my psychic. She doesn't read anybody that's not part of the team. Okay. Because over the years, people who have called her have become attached to her because she's so spot on all the time. So she doesn't read anybody that's not on the team. And I've never asked her to read me. Never. I'm the only one that's never been read. And she calls me up and she says, I got a message for Chris Reinhardt. I got to talk to Chris Reinhardt. And I was like, she doesn't even know who Chris Reinhardt is, So I called Chris and I was like, listen, take this name and number down. It's important. And apparently she was told that she's got to start mentoring him because his psychic abilities have opened up, and he's wide open. And I told her, I said, the first thing you need to do is teach him how to protect himself and ground himself so that not everything just comes to him all the time, and that's what you need to. That was the first lesson. And she's been working with him ever since. She talks to him more than she talks to me now.
All right, we have gone over the hour. Al, tell everybody where they can get you and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, you can find me at the Bronxville Paranormal Society, the New York State Sasquatch Organization, the New York State the New York State Dogman Project, and the New York State UFO Project. On Facebook. We have a BPS, Bronxville Paranormal Site, has a YouTube page as well. And we have a couple of websites and a couple of hotlines. So if you want to call, leave a message, either I'll get it or Brian will get it. And we'll get back to you. Or you could just contact me on Facebook Messenger. I'm easy enough to find. Yeah. If you got any questions, we didn't get to them tonight, please don't hesitate to ask, call me, send me a text. I'll be more than happy to answer anything anybody's got to ask.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you so much, Al,
thank you for having me, man. I mean, I appreciate it. I've told you before, you've got a standing invitation. You're welcome. Thank you very much. All right, bud. Enjoy the rest of your night. Good night. Bye, Tiff.
Bye.
All right.
It just always go by so fast. Like maybe we should lengthen it. We just talk and talk and talk and talk.
No, if it wasn't for that 2-foot tall monster that's in the other room in there that controls my every move, then
kids are great.
Yeah. When she gets a little bit older, it'll be greater.
No.
I say that, but I'll miss it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
All right, another good show. Another hour that felt like 20 minutes.
Yep.
Thank you to all the audience, everyone. As always, keeping it respectful and professional, and good questions and comments. We always appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for being who you are and doing what you do. Tiffany, what you got before we get out?
Come back Thursday afternoon at 2, because we're gonna actually have my cousin on, who is a preacher. So I'm super excited about that. So please tell everyone about that. Thursday afternoon at 2:00, we have our Thursday show. So please share.
What's he going to be talking about?
Well, I talked to him before this show, and I was just trying to kind of fill him in on, if it was a question and answer, just regular conversation. But he said he has some really good stuff lined up to talk about. So,
Okay. Yeah, I know you're excited about it. I know he's a little bit nervous about it, but it's going to be a good show.
it'll be a great.
Again, Thursday at 2:00, same place right here. We will see you then. Guys, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And we'll see you next time.